The MOG Initiative is a program based at the Mass General NMO Clinic and Research Laboratory to develop research programs around MOG, myelin oligodendrocyte glycoprotein antibody-mediated disease. This is a demyelinating disease that fits under the rubric of neuromyelitis optica. It shares some common features with multiple sclerosis and with transverse myelitis, and this is a disease that seems to be different from all of those, defined by presence of the MOG antibody. And so we have several different projects in the lab going on to understand what causes the disease and how to treat it. MOG is a relatively new disease. The antibody test in the United States has only been available since 2017, 2015 in the United Kingdom and in Europe. And prior to that, the diagnosis was more difficult to make, and so there hasn't been a lot of research going on. Now that we have a reliable antibody, we can diagnose patients reliably with MOG antibody disease. We can really start to take these research projects forward. Okay? The reason we started this initiative is because in order to create drugs, develop drugs, and take them into clinical trials, you have to have sufficient preclinical data from the laboratory to justify the investment and the effort to enroll patients in trials to believe that these drugs are going to be safe and effective for patients with MOG. So to begin this effort, you come at it from multiple different points of view. You demonstrate the benefit in mouse models. You also do human studies, whatever it takes to really convince yourself and everyone around you and all of your investors and stakeholders that this is a project that's worth carrying forward to a clinical trial. Okay. There are 4 elements in our MOG initiative that are currently running. First, we're conducting a survey online through Facebook and other social media platforms to collect as much information about MOG patients' response to treatments, because we need to figure out what everybody is using, what works, what doesn't, how well does it work, and is it safe. So our survey requests this information from patients. It also asks them to upload certain information so that we can verify all the data that's coming in. So when we publish it, we can reliably say, this is what everyone's been using, this is what works, and this is what doesn't work. The second major initiative is a mouse model for tolerization. Tolerization is an attempt to re-educate the immune system so that your immune system stops attacking MOG. And there are several different ways to do that. We're working with industry, two companies in particular that have different ways of tolerizing. And to take this type of approach forward into a human study, we first need to demonstrate that it works in the mouse. So we have mice that develop MOG antibody disease, and then we apply industry's technology to these mice, and then we have to demonstrate that it's safe and effective in order to move forward to a human trial. The third initiative involves a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking. We know that MOG, the protein, is the target of the immune response, but why does the MOG protein initiate that kind of immune response? To understand that better, we're trying to understand what MOG can do to the immune system and what other kind of proteins that look like MOG can do to the immune system. And MOG belongs in this set of proteins that interacts with cholesterol synthesis. So we're wondering, is it possible that there's a disruption in the cholesterol synthesis pathway, or can we perhaps repurpose drugs that are used to block cholesterol synthesis in MOG antibody disease to prevent relapses in MOG antibody disease? The fourth initiative is trying to take new drugs forward into clinical trials for MOG antibody disease based on what we know already about the disease. We know that IVIG appears to be helpful, so we're working with a company that has a drug that works like IVIG, but is much more convenient, has fewer side effects. We're also working with other companies that have different approaches of modulating the immune system so we can tamp down attacks in MOG antibody disease. The drugs we're interested in moving into clinical trials right away are already being used for other diseases like myasthenia gravis and multiple sclerosis. So we feel fairly confident that we can launch these clinical trials in MOG antibody disease in the next year or so.